all the crises we've been through over the last decade, particularly our sector, it's amazing how we're still standing. We're still, actually, I don't want to say we're still going strong. I want you to tell me how we're going. So very, very quickly, can you just, because I actually haven't dabbled enough in AskWire to understand the technology behind it all. Can you explain what exactly AskWire does?
Sure. So I'll do So when people talk about real estate, they think prices, right? So prices, new construction, whatever. But actually, we go back to what real estate is. It's bricks, right? I mean, it's and what we saw when the time came to manage the real estate, all in there are thousands and billions in the banks and the private equity funds, was to just look at the price of real estate. You're sort of missing the point. You're missing a big chunk of what it is, because it's about, okay, how much you're going to sell it for, but what are the permits, what are the documentation, legalities, but then you also need to insure it. Your tenant, you need to be able to collect the rent, and then that property is impacted by various risks, floods like we recently had in Dubai, by climate change, so things are changing on the long term. So when we forget about the real estate market and we go back to the fundamentals and say, okay, step one, can we put all the data together about what a property is, and then we can decide how to manage it, how to sell it, how to insure it, and everything else. And when to do that, it's actually quite hard, because each and every property is different. So so how do you do it? And we came and said, we're going to do it for the whole of Europe, right? So it's like set the bar high and then sort of fail. And the way we went about doing that was we used two European Union directives. One is called the EU Open Data Directive, and the Open Data Directive forces government, compels them to open their databases to third parties. So they have to give you data. There's another directive called INSPIRE, which is an acronym that relates to the land registry, which basically says that all the data that comes out of all the land registries in the EU needs to be in the same manner, same format, and everything. So in this magical world, somebody's going to draw a road from Lisbon to Helsinki, and everything's going to link together in terms of data and maps and whatever. So we came and said, great, we're going to do that. So we're going to use all this data and build a profile of each and every property in Europe. So for us, property is earthquake zones, soil quality, floods, road network, the buildings, town planning, climate change, and then you go into demographics and stuff like that. So it's thousands of data, millions of data points that we collect, and we bring them all together as layers, one sitting on top of the other, from all these different government services, but also Google, and we buy data from third parties. So we built that for Cyprus, we've done it for Greece, and now we're building Romania, and we're sort of, one country at a time, sort of powering through. And what that allows is that on top of all these property profiles, we've built three what we term solutions. One has to do with the real estate market. So we access the data from the land registry as registered valuers, clean them in terms of these are apartments, these are houses, the square meters, construction year, and we map them all around Cyprus. And then we have crawlers. So crawlers, there's mini hoovers that go on different websites and get the data. So we get data from the main aggregators, real estate websites in Cyprus, all the properties for sale by the banks, properties in the auction process. We do the same in Greece. And we map those daily, so it's daily updates. So you have a daily snapshot of what's sold and what's for sale in the market. And then on top of those, we build various models that track, you can value real estate instantly. So you just click and the whole thing is valued. And similarly for a developer, you turn and say, okay, I'm Cybarco and I have Limassol Greens and I have Trilogy and I have whatever. Okay, how is my competitor doing? Okay, you click, you pick your competitor, you get the list of all their projects, how many properties they are building, how many they've sold, price per square meter, what floor they're selling, how fast they are selling, and then we benchmark you against them. And we currently track about, I think, 600 projects across Cyprus, real time, inverted commas. So that's one. Right, and then similarly, we have a second one that has to do with risks, which is for insurance companies. So their risk is split into this is very boring, into 3 parts. One is called acute risks. So acute are like one-off big events, so earthquakes, fires, floods. So again, we have the whole Cyprus for that. Then we have what is called climate change and the different scenarios. So you buy a house in Platres, it's amazing, but in 30 years' time, the whole place is gonna be suffering because the risk of fire is gonna be very high, right? The whole of the island is drying up. So climate change, and then it's what is called transition risk. And transition risk, which is something very important that nobody talks about, is the risk of transitioning to a green economy. So as the new building codes at the EU level, and of course Cyprus, call for new buildings to be constructed to be Class A energy performance, it means that your apartment that is currently maybe Class E, let's say, is less valuable, right? Because you could have 2 units that are side by side, but they were built on different codes. One has a lower energy performance. So as more and more buildings, the new stuff that is coming onto the market is Class A, it means that everything that is older, has a lower energy performance, loses value.